Welcome to another episode, everyone. The day that Big Meech found out how dangerous Young Jeezy really was. Big Meech and BMF apparently wanted Young Jeezy to involve himself in the RICO Act that sent them all under the jailhouse. Young Jeezy separated himself from that. Many people agree with that decision, but some do not. Let's get into it.
Back in the day, the BMF crew wasn't one to play around, especially Meech. But if you ask them now, linking up with Young Jeezy was a move they came to regret from allegedly turning against Meech during his trial.
But if you and your homeboys just walking through the mall, and it's three of y'all, and then 15 guys come and say, we finna beat and the that run, that was Jeezy. He was that ran.
To having a gun standoff with some BMF affiliates at a party.
It's Jeezy and it's me. You know what I'm saying? And with BMF is right in front of me and Jeezy. And Jeezy took the gun and put it to his head and was like, shoot, don't shoot.
Meech and the BMF crew got to discover just how dangerous Jeezy could be. Let's dive in. Looking back, people used to say Young Jeezy was riding off Big Meech's influence.
Meech was a really, really good friend of mine.
Okay.
And he said, listen, Khan, I got this artist, man. I need your help on it. I promise you, man, I'm gonna look out for you. However you need me, I got you. I said, man, whatever, just bring him too.
Right.
He brought him by the studio. Yeah. And Jeezy.
He built his name while being around the BMF crew, benefiting from their reputation and street power.
Look, I look at Jeezy, the support that they offered him in those early stages. I don't think there's Jeezy without BMF.
Everybody knows how BMF started. Two brothers, Demetrius and Terry Flannery, better known as Big Meech and Southwest T, came up from a tough background.
These two brothers who came from Detroit, came from nothing.
Seeing no real way out, they got into the D game. Over time, they became some of the biggest D dealers of their era. As their operation grew, Meech's love for music led him to start the BMF Entertainment label. In fact, word was that the record label was created to neutralize his shady dealings. This ended up attracting artists like Young Jeezy. Rumor had it that Jeezy was the first artist signed to the label. He, however, made it clear that he was never officially signed there.
It's affiliated. Like whenever people hear BMF, right, they always say the first artist of BMF was Jeezy. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Still, Meech played a major role in his come-up, throwing money and support behind him.
And Meech kind of took a real good, strong liking to Jeezy because he liked how his music was.
I mean, I remember in the documentary, 2 Chainz said that he was in Magic City one night, and
outside the blue of my Haiti City, hold it down. But I was like, that's my this like my extended family, man. My support me in every shape form.
Jeezy himself never outright denied their close bond.
I understand you and Meech still maintain a relationship.
Yeah.
He even shared stories about his wild times with Meech, like how the guy could spend an entire day just listening to music.
Man, you know, I used to go, man, he'd sit around the house and smoke music all day. And when I say all day, I mean until it's club time.
How Meech once randomly called him up for a trip out of the country.
One time, this motherfucker called me and said, yo, Jeezy, we going to Cancun. I said, who, Meech? We.
He had chartered a plane and ended up bringing roughly 300 people along.
This chartered a plane, not a jet, a plane, and took 300 people to Cancun, Mexico.
They had all the fun on the plane.
Every stripper in Atlanta, everybody who wanted to go, nobody was exempt, and we flew to Cancun on a plane that he chartered, and the was serving Cristal on the plane.
But things were not going to go smoothly for long. Everything changed when the feds started closing in. BMF had already locked down cities like North Carolina, Ohio, and Tennessee, leaving a trail of D's and violence. Law enforcement had been trying to pin them down for years.
So many different people around, that's what made it so hard to know who was actually a federal agent and who was actually a person out just having a good time on the party scene with us. We know they're here.
Well, yes, of course, it's always going to be hard to know who's around you when you have a multi-million-dollar illicit operation going. It's hard to trust anyone. The first individual that was speaking, I believe that was Blue Da Vinci. and, saying that Jeezy ran in the mall when 15 people approached him and tried to attack him or whatever. And again, many individuals are saying that, Blue Da Vinci has the crabs in the barrel mentality, that Young Jeezy just wanted to get out, separate himself from the RICO, and that these dudes are hating on him. They saying that even Big Meech was hating on him and upset at the fact that Young Jeezy didn't find himself, I suppose, in prison with them. Interested to know what you all think, but Young Jeezy, he's been rather successful in his career, and, he never said that he was a BMF member or anything like that, but he was associated with them clearly, and apparently they wanted him to take the fall with them, and when he did not, they began to slander Young Jeezy some. But Young Jeezy, as we see, he pointed the gun at someone's head, and so he's out there holding his own, even though he's a rapper, and they making it seem like BMF put Young Jeezy on, but Young Jeezy he already had money by the time he hooked up with BMF. Yes, they helped him. Yes, they supported him, I suppose, Big Meech or whatever. But his talent is what has him to where he is at today, Young Jeezy's talent, because no matter who helps you or who backs you or who may help you financially, if you're not talented in whatever your endeavor is, then you will not be successful. So no one can take the credit for his success other than himself, his drive, his determination, his commitment, and his talent. Many of these years that when he was flourishing, Big Meech was locked up. He was in prison. So I'm going to give Young Jeezy the credit.
Eventually, a wiretap on Meech's brother led to a massive crackdown. The feds swept through, taking down a huge chunk of the BMF crew and their associates. Unlike many in their circle, Jeezy managed to stay out of it. In fact, during the trial, there were whispers that he got fronted some serious weight, kilos of cocaine. But he did not go down for it. Meech ended up getting locked up. When Meech got in, word was that he reached out to Jeezy multiple times. Jeezy stayed silent.
So what you're saying is that Jeezy has not put up the money for the appeal for Big Meech?
Exactly. I mean, he won't do nothing, period.
Meanwhile, Blue Da Vinci claimed he was still going on interviews, saying he had love for Meech.
When we got somebody that's still running around saying that, he loved man and, he got him 100% and all that.
He then called him out, saying Jeezy's love was just for show.
At the end of the day, the selfishness, sticks in the Hollywood and the lights and the cameras.
Over the years, Jeezy kept making everyone suspect that he was denying any real affiliation with BMF.
Well, you was affiliated.
Me and Meech was like...
Okay.
He kept insisting that he and Meech were just friends from different worlds.
Me and Meech was like...
Okay.
You two. Right. You know what I mean? Which means that I had, and I had my crew.
Of course, Da Vinci wasn't having it. He went on to reveal that Jeezy was part of BMF before the whole drama.
I thought Young Jeezy was part of the whole BMF movement.
I mean, he was. But it all used to be.
Which everyone believed was true, following how he used to give...
Stop snitching, Blue Da Vinci. You still snitching? You don't have to expose. If clearly, Young Jeezy, false or true, is trying to separate himself from BMF. They got involved in a RICO. They all got 30 years and longer and all of this. He doesn't want to be a part of it. Whether he was or was not. Publicly, at least, he's saying, no, I wasn't, I was cool with Big Meech, but that's about it. Wasn't a part of no BMF. He don't want them to come with a RICO 20 years later or something on him. So he's separating himself from it. Here's Blue Da Vinci. Oh yeah, he was a part of BMF. Yeah, he was part of BMF. Yeah, because he went down. He was already snitching on the case, being a Blue Da Vinci. Now he's still snitching on Young Jeezy. Man, stop snitching.
Them credits.
Now, the first time I heard your name running through the ATL, they said you actually were part of BMF records. You still thugging it? Oh, that was never. Okay. Man, shouts out to Blue in my Haiti City. Man. Hold it down.
Then there was Meech himself during a jail interview who called Jeezy a liar, claiming he broke the code by abandoning him.
He keeps screaming gangsta Gibbs, so they can't hear a song from him yet. Ragged is just gonna tell the real, man. Then step up to the plate when eating. Ain't like a in the whole hand. And you spent $300 or you spent $2-3 grand a month. You a lie. Well, lie. You a
He went as far as saying Jeezy's career would be done when he got out. This could probably be because Meech gave him all the popularity he had. Still speaking off.
No, he did not give him all the popularity he had. And no, his career is not over since Big Meech has been home. Now, I remember part of that interview that Blue Da Vinci had did. He was cutting it off right there some years back when he was talking about, young Jeezy supporting Big Meech financially, saying that so he had not helped him with his appeal and what have you, but said that he would. And he said, we're not talking about no millions of dollars or nothing, man. It's, a couple hundreds of thousands or something. I mean, he's supposed to be his boy. He's putting him in his records. He's going around, still saying his name to remain relevant or whatever. He's using Big Meech for his career, but he's not looking out for him. I don't know. Interested to know what you all think about that. I had my opinion at the time when I was hearing all of that. I was saying, well, Big Meech was worth millions of dollars. Plural, multiple millions of dollars. Hell, making millions a week or something. What did he do with all the money? Why does he need Young Jeezy's money? All right, okay, they boys, they're friends or whatever, but the man still doesn't owe him anything. Now me, I would have looked out for my people, for my boy. If I'm on, I got millions, and he locked up. I escaped the RICO. I didn't get locked up, but even if I had nothing to do with it, he's locked up. I'm gonna try to help get him out, of course. But who knows the reason that Young Jeezy may have stayed away from that situation? Again, he doesn't just want to tie himself into that, even financially. I don't know, But what happened to your money? Get your own self out of there. Get your own lawyer. You did a couple $100,000. You ain't got that. You had millions upon millions. These people just be blowing their bread, man. No, don't blame Young Jeezy.
Affiliation. When Southwest T got released, Jeezy mentioned him in a track.
That's Meech's brother, right? He said, "Welcome home, T." He said,
in the track, he says something along the line of not owing him.
"I owe you money, but that ain't me."
He claimed there were rumors in the streets, hence the clarity. When asked about his connection to Southwest T, he downplayed it, saying he had only spoken to him a couple of times.
I don't really know T. I knew of T.
Right.
Because the 2 times I met T the 2 times I talked to T was the first time I was at a party with Puff.
But words on the street was otherwise. So from then, people had their own thoughts on what the real story was. To his defense, many people believed that Jeezy just wanted to avoid getting caught up in the mess. One guest from interview wasn't having it. He felt that everyone wanted to be part of BMF when things were good. But once Meech was locked up, it was a whole different story.
Everybody was down and everything was cool with BMF before they got busted. Everybody wanted to be down with the play until they got busted. And then when it went sour, then nobody want to fly the flag no more.
There was also big...
Yeah, you think? That's how it go. What are you talking about? Yeah, when it's good, it's good. All of this nonsense, all of this street stuff, the gangs, whatever, it's all good when it's good. When things begin to go bad, yes, no one wants a part of it. Absolutely everyone wants to separate themselves from the bad part of it. You're talking about people going to prison for 50 years. Why would he want to be a part of that? You're talking about when it was good, it was good. Yeah, it was good. We had bottles, we had money, we had women, we were flying on planes to Cancun. It's good. Yeah, I'm a part of it. It's all good out here. It's beautiful. But then, when it starts going all bad, then, my goodness, it's all bad. I'm supposed to stay down. It's all bad. Everybody going to jail forever. But this still BMF. I'm staying down. Even though they ain't coming to get me. Damn it, I want to go down with y'all. Instead of staying out here and flourishing, making millions of dollars, building a legacy and a career, which is what he ended up doing, I'm going to go to prison with y'all for 30 years just to say I was down. No, thank you.
Meech himself speaking of the situation, painting Young Jeezy as a coward.
But if you and your homeboys just walking through the mall, and it's 3 of y'all, and then 15 guys come and say, we finna beat and the that run, that was Jeezy. He was ran.
Now, while Meech was doing his time, some of his guys weren't about to let things slide.
Just like you ran, Blue Da Vinci, ran your mouth. right there in the interrogation room, right there in the courtroom, right there in the police car, everywhere. You started running your mouth immediately. So you ran your mouth. And I don't know how Jeezy is such a coward. If you were the one that snitched, he's not accused of snitching on them. They came and asked Jeezy for information too. You don't think that they did? They investigated him and everything else. They wanted to take him down. You don't think they questioned him? But there's no paperwork on him snitching, but there's plenty on you, Blue Da Vinci.
And I believe BMF shows up at one of your parties?
Yeah. They showed up at a party that we had at Club Royal. It was a CT party. They was invited.
It was supposed to be a chill moment, but things got heated real fast.
They came to our party. They happened to have a white boy from Macon with them, right? It was a white boy from Macon. Matter of fact, he was on the documentary talking about he was an enforcer.
One guy pulled a gun on Jeezy and one of his guys.
The one pulled out a gun. So we in the middle of the club, they got guns on us. He got a gun on us. Only one person got a gun. The BMF is right in front of me and Jeezy, cause it's me and Jeezy right here in the crew. And he still got the gun pointed right at Jeezy.
Jeezy just kept his cool, then forcing the gun to his head, daring the guy to pull the trigger.
Jeezy was like, ain't gonna shoot. He took the gun and put it to his head and was like, shoot.
In the end, nothing happened, but they still ended up taking his broken chain.
And then one was with the other had smacked the gun down, not smacked it, but grabbed the gun in the hand and pulled it down. And when he did that, the gun barrel snatched Jeezy diamond chain and it broke. And we had got all of it back, probably about that much, and they had it. So they try to act like they snatched the chain.
That wasn't the only time things got tense. Blue Da Vinci was also among the BMF crew who...
Yeah, well, Jeezy got a whole lot of... He got some big kahunas, I'll tell you that. I don't know about that one, man. Because these individuals, I guess he knew who it was and knew that these dudes would not pull the trigger, I suppose. Or that one individual who had the gun pointed at him would not pull the trigger, and he did not. You're still playing Russian roulette with your life. So putting a gun in your head, talking about, go ahead, shoot, pull the trigger. I don't know where he's at. Stay out of LA with that kind of talk. Because these dudes, man, and not just LA, anywhere, these dudes, some of these dudes will pull a trigger just because they take umbrage to that, they're offended, you're challenging them, challenging their manhood, and they'll go all the way. We see it all the time. Be careful.
Went to jail.
Now, Blue Da Vinci, I know you were away for a minute and now you're back. What exactly were you charged with?
Conspiracy with intent to distribute.
And that was with the whole entire BMF bust.
When he got out of prison, he and some of the BMF guys pressed Jeezy regarding Big Meech.
We was in New York, and Jeezy wasn't clearing the records.
They claimed they had given him some advancements.
It was right before Baby Blue got killed. We was headed to Miami. We was on a tour bus, driving from New York all the way to Miami to go holler at Jeezy about this record we got to clear. Because we had gave him advancements.
Jeezy, though, didn't comply. He had all kinds of excuses.
He was blaming it on Def Jam.
The crew wasn't trying to hear it.
We knew that was because Fabulous had cleared the record with us and he was signed to Def Jam.
Again, things got ugly, and they ended up attacking Jeezy's entourage.
It went from there, and it went to a couple of my guys from the clique, ended up getting in shootouts with their entourage. You know what I'm saying? With Jeezy entourage for not being, from the fake in it.
Now BMF wasn't just another crew out here trying to make a name, as we already know. They were on a whole different level. They started hustling weed just to pay bills, but everything changed when they linked up with E.D. Boyd and the 50 Boys.
Yeah, Meech was exactly. He was 14, 15 years old. I'm gonna say closely to more to 15 years old.
And with Meech, he brought D Meeks and his brother Southwest T.
Okay, that happened. Okay.
Boyd was a top player in Detroit's crack scene, and working for him showed Meech and Terry just how much money was really in the game. Weed was one thing, but cocaine, that was a whole new level. But when you're making moves in the streets, beef is always around the corner. Meech and Terry ended up in a serious conflict with a dude named LaDon Simon, another heavyweight in Detroit's D scene. Things got so heated that LaDon allegedly tried to take Meech out in a drive-by. But even after nearly getting killed, Meech wasn't about to back down. Instead, he and Terry found their own plug, started bringing in their own coke, and that's when their operation really took off. Most big-time dealers either end up dead or locked up, but Ed Boyd actually managed to retire without any issues, even though Meech and Terry basically took over the city. He told DJ Vlad that they're still cool to this day. He just knew when to step away from the game. Meanwhile, Meech and Terry were supplying almost every major dealer in Detroit, and as their empire grew, so did their problems with LaDon. One night at a party, things popped off between their crews, and bullets started flying. LaDon says he grabbed Meech as a human shield, and in the chaos, his brother Elvis got shot and killed.
Cause how big Meech kind of got, like I said, I'm jumping, but how big Meech got into it when my brother got shot, he ran past me when the shooting started, and I grabbed him. You know, and I had him for a shield, and the guy wouldn't shoot me. They were after my brother, and that's when they shot him.
LaDon let Meech go and ran to his brother, but the shooter caught him 5 times in the back. He survived, but losing his brother only made him more dangerous. A few months later, he took another shot at Meech. Literally. Meech was partying at a diner in Layden's neighborhood when things went sideways. Layden had just lost his brother, and his 10-year-old nephew had been beaten to death around the same time, so he was already on edge. Nobody knows exactly how it went down, but Layden allegedly pulled out his gun and shot Meech multiple times.
I'm coming home one night. He at the Coney Island. Told I went home and got some type, you know what I'm saying, and came back and he was still up there. I got in the Jeep with him, and you know, they say it was like 18 times.
For most people, getting shot would be a wake-up call, a reason to fall back.
Man, that's messed up. He tried to hold Big Meech as a shield, and then they end up gunning for his brother. He said, or gunned his brother down, deleted him. He said that they were after his brother. But then part of their plan worked by unaliving his brother, which is going to cause him to let Big Meech go and run to his brother, just instinctively. That's what he did. And then they shot him in the back 5 times. Tried to kill him. Just killed his brother. Now they're trying to kill him. Hit him in the back 5 times. Somehow he survived, but he's still here to tell a tale. These streets are just dangerous. These organizations are dangerous. The dealing is dangerous. And none of it is worth it. I'm sure Big Meech will tell you that now after serving 20 years or so in prison. Blessed to be home now. And there was a lot of chaos and violence inside of this organization, so he's blessed to be home.
But not Meech. Just a few days later, he was back on his feet and more determined than ever to take BMF to the next level. Detroit was locked down, but Meech had bigger plans. In 1990, he made the move to Atlanta to expand the empire. While Terry held things down in Detroit, Meech hit the East Coast and started making connections. But instead of muscling out the competition, he did things differently. He hit up all the clubs, spent ridiculous amounts of money, and got everyone's attention. That's how he met all the major players in Atlanta. Instead of starting a war, he supplied the dealers already running the city. Less drama, more money. At this point, BMF's plug was in Colombia, and the weight was moving through Florida into the US. Everything was running like a well-oiled machine, and Meech's strategy was paying off. The flash, the money, the power. It was all just getting started. But when the feds started tightening up on their supply chain, Meech had to make a move, so he headed out to LA to lock in a new plug. And just like that, BMF leveled up again. Within a few years, they had operations running in Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, you name it. By the early 2000s, they weren't just a D empire anymore. BMF had turned into a full-blown brand. Terry and Meech had always been deep in the rap scene, rubbing shoulders with artists and living that superstar lifestyle. But Meech took it a step further, and that was when he launched BMF Entertainment, a record label and promotion company that doubled as a way to clean their money.
Meech said, I'm out so much in the streets, when am I doing anything else? You know, I'm promoting my record label.
Smart move, right? Well, the problem was, Meech's larger-than-life persona put way too much heat on the operation. Terry had always been the more low-key one. He knew that flashing money left and right was a surefire way to get the feds watching.
Terry didn't like that Meech was a party animal because, you know, it just brought so much attention. It was like a big disagreement.
But Meech, that was his whole business strategy. He'd roll into a new city, hit the clubs, and drop anywhere from $50K to $100K in a single night. That kind of stuntin' had all the local hustlers taking notice, and before long he'd be plugged in with the top dealers. Back in the day, that was just how things worked. But once BMF Entertainment took off, the whole world was watching. Meech wasn't just throwing money around, he was showing off his luxury cars, his mansions, and even putting up billboards with the BMF logo. At that point, Terry had enough. He saw where this was heading and started distancing himself. And then, in 2003, everything took a turn for the worse. That November, Meech got caught up in a deadly shooting at Club Chaos in Atlanta. He got into it with Anthony Wolf Jones, Diddy's ex-bodyguard, and before long, shots were flying. Wolf and his boy Lamont Gertie were both killed, and Meech himself got hit in the backside. He was booked for a double homicide, but the case was weak, and the judge let him out on house arrest.
So now Meech is charged with a double murder, but he's out on bond and he's on house arrest. So now he's at the house.
Still, the damage was done. His arrest drove an even bigger wedge between him and Terry. By this point, BMF was already showing cracks. Terry was out west running his end of the business while Meech was still flexing in Atlanta. At Meech's 34th birthday party, tensions boiled over when a bunch of his guys showed up rocking Free Big Meech shirts. They even brought in a monitor so Meech could address the party from house arrest. Things got so tense that people allegedly started pulling out guns. Nothing major went down that night, but it was clear BMF was falling apart. The feds had been after them since the 90s, but in 2004 they finally got the break they needed. A small-time dealer in Atlanta named DeCarlo Hoskins flipped, which led them to two higher-ups in BMF, Omari McCree and Jeffrey Lair. Once the cops tapped their phones, they realized just how deep the organization ran.
Omari was running a side business with Jeffrey Lair without Meech's permission. So Omari was the weakest link in Meech's chain.
Once the warrants were drafted, we arrested Omari McCree and we began debriefing.
Then came the biggest mistake. Terry got caught slipping on the phone. He and Meech had always argued about Meech bringing too much attention to BMF, but in the end, it wasn't Meech's flashy lifestyle that got them locked up. It was Terry talking business over a tapped line.
From what I understand, really, most of the evidence was coming on Terry's side because of all the wiretaps and everything else like that. They didn't really catch Meech with a whole lot of stuff, but then again, you have the hearsay.
For 5 months, the feds listened in, gathering 900 pages of evidence. By 2005, it was game over. The DEA had been quietly building their case, and by October, they had already arrested 17 BMF members and seized millions in cash, Ds, and assets. Then came the big hit. 30 more arrests, including Meech and Terry. The numbers were insane. According to the feds, BMF was moving 2,500 kilos of coke a month. At its peak, they allegedly had over 500 people working for them. The entire organization crumbled, with around 150 arrests in total. When it was all said and done, Meech and Terry both pleaded guilty and got hit with 30-year sentences. From selling dime bags on the streets of Detroit to running a nationwide empire worth hundreds of millions, they had built something legendary. But when you're moving that kind of weight, it's only a matter of time before the law catches up. Fast forward to 2020 and Terry caught a lucky break. He got released on house arrest due to COVID-19. Meech's team tried to get him out too, but the government wasn't having it. A US attorney even said that Meech was still glorifying his past and showed no signs of changing. But even behind bars, Meech managed to secure a win. His original release date was 2031, but thanks to changes in sentencing guidelines, he got a few years shaved off. It wasn't freedom, but it was something. A few months back, Meech got out, but let's be real. Things have been anything but chill. Drama's been flying everywhere, and one of the biggest names stirring the pot, none other than 50 Cent. And why? Because Meech linked up with Rick Ross for some project and 50 wasn't feeling it. Next thing you know, 50's out here claiming there's proof that Meech had snitched his way out. And just when people thought he was bluffing, boom, he dropped the bomb. First, it was that Tammy Cowan had helped Meech snitch. Following that, he claimed that Cuffy's nephew, Bebe, had an audio recording of a three-way call between him, 42 Doug, and Big Meech. And let's just say, things went left real fast. Once the audio leaked, it was exactly the kind of chaos everyone expected. On the call, Bebe wasn't holding back. He was pressing Meech hard, asking the questions that had everybody talking. Like, why was Meech still rocking with Tammy Cowans after all the shady stuff that went down with Cuffy? If she really helped the feds take down BMF associates, why was she still in the picture? Instead of setting the record straight, Meech got defensive. He basically said he didn't owe anyone an explanation. Not Bebe, not the streets, nobody. And if people thought he was snitching, they needed to pull up the paperwork. Well, funny thing, 50 already claimed to have that paperwork locked and loaded. Bebe wasn't letting it go though. He kept pressing Meech about never cutting Tammy off despite all the allegations. And let's be real, he had a point, because a lot of people had been side-eyeing Meech for not publicly addressing her involvement. Then, just as things were heating up, Meech straight up hung up the call. And honestly, that did not look good. Once the audio hit the streets, Bebe went even further. He sat down for a full 30-minute interview with Dogface TV and really started spilling. He claimed Meech knew exactly what Tammy was doing and that the snitching allegations were all part of a deal. According to him, Meech was supposed to get a lighter sentence in exchange for Tammy working with the feds.
Information she shouldn't know. Well, it's not so much he pillow talked. He put them together. He put her with Cuffy, her with Soros, so that's not pillow talking. He's directly putting them together.
And here's the kicker. There's paperwork backing that up. The legal docs reportedly show that Tammy met Dion Cuffy through Meech, which is how Cuffy got caught up in this whole mess. And it gets even worse. Meech allegedly connected Fidel Suarez with Tammy too, meaning multiple people got wrapped up in what looked like a third-party cooperation situation. While Meech may have benefited, Cuffy ended up serving time. And that's why folks are throwing around the rat label. Meanwhile, 50 Cent has been keeping tabs on all of this, pulling receipts, and making sure anybody linked to his enemies gets aired out. And to make things even wilder, Big Meech and his son, Lil Meech, have been spotted hanging with people 50's been beefing with for years. And let's not forget, 50 has been going at Lil Meech heavy too, even leaking messages showing Lil Meech trying to stay on his good side. He even threatened to drop him from the BMF show entirely. And just when people thought he'd let up, 50 doubled down, pushing those substance abuse rumors and claiming producers and cast members had seen it firsthand. Oh, and he even accused Big Meech of enabling his son's behavior. At this point,
yes, he did. Their beef, Big Meech and 50 Cent beef, has calmed down some. Okay, let me know what you think in the comments. Young Jeezy was not going for it. He separated himself from Big Meech, apparently, looks like. Separated himself from the RICO, separated himself from the case. Yes, he was there, apparently, when things were going well, as many people were. But, again, I don't know of Young Jeezy snitching or anything in that situation, but nearly everyone else from BMF certainly told. They still have a problem with Jeezy. As we can see, many of them, they had shootouts with him, with Jeezy and his entourage. They putting guns to Jeezy's head. I mean, they just want to take him down. They just trying Jeezy, bro. You know, I mess with Jeezy, as y'all can probably tell. I mean, I just don't think, I don't know the intricacies of the case. I don't know what happened. I'm sure that the feds went and talked to him or whatever, but he did not roll over. He didn't go to prison, but he didn't send anyone to prison either. The feds built their own case on him. I just don't know what he was supposed to do. Raise his hand and say, take me to prison. No one does that. No one does that. So they're criticizing him for something that neither of them would have done either, because no one would do something like that. Say, oh yeah, take me. Don't forget about me, officer. Take me to prison for 20 years too. No. If you can do something and get away with it and everyone else got caught, you're going to, that's what you're going to do. Okay, let me know what you think in the comments. 50 Cent and Big Meech did have this old beef going. And he was 50 Cent. You sending him text messages, Lil Meech, Big Meech's son, and you think that these text messages are going to stay private when he's already beefing with Pops, when he's beefing with Big Meech? 50 Cent has no filter. He doesn't care. He's going to put it out there, and that's what he did. But again, apparently their beef has simmered down. Big Meech already said that you have to have thick skin. And, they was blaming Big Meech, if you're on the internet, that you have to have thick skin, he was saying. But I remember reading a book when I was in prison, and they were blaming Big Meech often, all of the time for them getting caught up, but, well, not in a book, but before. But really, it wasn't even Big Meech. They didn't have much on him. He was very careful on the phones. They didn't have much evidence. It was, as they just alluded to, Southwest T, because he was talking too much on the phone. So while Big Meech was, arrogant, I suppose, certainly flamboyant, we can't say that that's the cause for the downfall, because when it was all said and done, that was just a lot of fluff. But when you look behind the veneer of it all, they did not have much evidence on Big Meech. So though he was flamboyant, he was also studious and careful, clearly. Stay safe and stay free, people.